this is Tony from 6-String Corner, and today I'm going to show you the acoustic guitar solo to Patience, both the intro and the main solo. So as in any guitar solo, and I've been talking about this quite a bit, it's a theme, so hopefully if you've been following my videos, you kind of get the idea of what I'm going to say here. If you haven't, go check the rest of them out and you'll know what I'm talking about. I like to learn solos in terms of how it's constructed in the way of a story. So oftentimes, most times, not all, but most times you'll see them in fours, right? You'll see a solo following like a poetry, like a poem, right? Right? It's a cadence that a poem follows, and generally a guitar solo should follow that. At least a good one does. This is something that you songwriters already know. You should know this already. This is how you write your songs. Sometimes guitar players, we sometimes get off track on that and just want to sort of play our thing, which can sometimes be okay. I know I have fun with that every once in a while. But if you're actually playing a melodic solo, you want to think in terms of how you want to communicate it as a story to the audience, whether you're making your own or you're playing another person's lead. In this case, this is Slash doing Patience with Guns N' Roses. In this solo, as in many of them that I've been already doing, I learn them in fours, four phrases, four very distinct phrases that I try to break down that solo and learn it. And I learn each phrase in order, so that by the time I get to that last phrase, I've got not just the notes down, but I've also got the feel, the vibe. Not like Slash. You're not going to play like Slash, but you're going to play like you, and you're going to have a little bit of feel into it. You're not just playing notes, which is much more interesting to the listener. It will be much more impressive too when you are able to play that and put a little of yourself into it. So that's for the main solo. Now the intro is a thing of its own. I'm throwing that in there just as an extra thing. I just think it's a very cool intro solo on the acoustic. It's one of my favorite acoustic solos out there. I hope you can learn something from it. You're definitely going to need to get some finger strength going here and some exercises, because there's some parts of the solo, especially if you're using somewhat heavier strings on acoustic. It's usually a little heavier than electric, not all the time, but chances are you might have that. You're going to need some strength in those fingers. So I have Guitar Finger Gymnastics, which is a series of videos. I call it a course, but it's really a bunch of videos, free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can get on there, get some finger strength built into those fingers. If you're not used to this type of thing, you're probably going to need it. And if you already are, hey, just put another exercise or two in your arsenal as you warm up and get ready to play and or practice. All right, so let's get on with the song. I'm going to break it down, and here we go. The first of the two solos to learn is the intro solo, which is actually my favorite in the song. Honestly, it's a lot of fun to play. And we're going to start right here on the 8th fret on the B string, and then you're going to do a slide from the 10th up to the 12th, and then pick this note, which is the 10th fret on the E string, and then you're going to slide down. So now slide down, back in the reverse order, and then end up back on that 8th fret. So, and then double note, and then this is this neat little lick where you're going to bend. So you definitely got to have a little of that bending technique, a little bending flair. You're just going to sort of bend it, and then the note starts right here on the 7th fret, and just go a little chromatic. So like this. And then just another quick bend, stop, and then back on this 8th fret. And then you go back here, do a little pull off, and end up on this 10th fret note here, which is the A. And then you're going to do this little thing where you're going to go. And that's with these two strings right here. That's on the 1st and 3rd string, and the middle finger, how I do it, is just going to sort of lay on top of the B string so that you don't hear it. It's actually muting it. And on your right hand, you're going to strum across all 3 strings. And then it's just going to be, you're just going to pick it once, but you're going to slide up each fret, 1st fret and the 2nd fret from the beginning. All right, so you got to work on that. That's like a 2-finger slide, so if you're not used to it, you're going to have to learn it because that's part of the solo. And then this little string skipping descending line on the scale, and then you take that middle finger, which ended up right here after that, and it's going to slide up to the 11th fret, and then you're on the 10th fret on the 1st string, skipping the B string, and then you do the same thing. So Same shape here, you're just going down 2 frets. Then take that middle finger, go down another 2 frets, and put the ring finger here on the same fret, which is the 7th fret on the 1st string. So as you can see, we're totally skipping the 2nd string. And then you slide it down. You actually don't pick that one, you slide down to those notes. Be sure to catch that twice. We're going to take this in 4 phrases. This is the first phrase that I like to start out with. Pretty simple, I think. Maybe it isn't for you. It's played here on the 7th, 8th, and 10th frets. That little pull off and a little slide. And then we'll do that little bending, little bluesy bend thing there on the B string. And make sure that when you bend, there's a quick mute, and then you don't want to hear that bend coming down. This is a nice little blues technique to use. And then you repeat that line. And then the second half of it just kind of repeats that again. So that note, that line just repeats itself. And then you're going to do this on the 10th and 12th frets on the 1st string. And then up on the 14th fret, you do this little descending run. So that's the first and the second phrase. So what you want to do before you go on to the 3rd and 4th is you want to get the first 2 phrases down, right? Because we want to get the vibe and the feel of this thing and not just learn just the notes. So you go through the first 2 and connect the 2 together. Make sure you get that bend, that little feel on that little bend, you know. All right, you don't want to just be nonchalant about that. Try and get the feel of how that is, and just isolate it if you can't get it. So anyway, what we're going to do . And that covers the first half of the solo. And it pretty much stays in that area on the guitar. Now we get on to the 3rd phrase, and the 3rd phrase drops way down low here. And this is going to require a little bit of finger strength to get these bends, because especially on acoustic guitar, especially depending on how thick your strings are, and how you are used to playing solos like this way down here, it could be a bit of you're going to have to really push it. You have to really give yourself a little bit extra strength to play this thing. Now, what I would suggest is, if you still need to work on it, I did put a link down below to Guitar Finger Gymnastics. That's a little mini, I guess you call it a mini course, just a series of videos, and one of them is working on your finger strength. So you might want to go ahead and download that and try and grab on a couple of those exercises that could help you play this type of thing. So now we're going to get on to the 3rd phrase of the solo. And this is the bend here on the 3rd fret on the B string. All right, open string to the 3rd fret on the E string. So you're going to go. All right, and then you repeat that line, but it's going to be down here on the 2nd fret on the G string, and we're going to go between the G and the B string. That's hard to do if you're not used to it, so you need some good strength in those fingers to make those work. And then you repeat this first line again. All right, then you just go right up to this B. Another way to play that could be, you can use the open string. Either way will work. I like to play it this way. I like to I put my own little flair and I slide into this note, into this E. But you can go either way. But as long as you get to this, it's a classic blues, classic blues where you bet. And then that's the 3rd phrase of the solo. So then what do? Well, let's work on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd phrase before you go on to the 4th one, right? Let's try and get the feel for the solo. So we're going to go back and we're going to play the whole thing up to that point. Then you go to the 4th and final phrase, which is just some series of bends over here in this position on the 1st string. Notice that part of the solo, it's very staccato, which means there's little mutes in between, so you got to be sure you catch that. You don't want to go, it's, and then the second time you open it up. All right, so it goes like this again. And you just slide up and you end it right there on that 5th fret on the E string. Then once you get it, hopefully at this point you've got the feel, you've got those bends, you've got this, it's a very bluesy type feel that's in this whole solo. Then you go over and you play it the whole thing. Hey, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, click the bell for more notifications. I've always got stuff like this coming up. If you need some exercises, Guitar Figure Gymnastics is right there at the bottom in the description. You can go click that. You can grab some routines, some exercise routines to help build your finger strength as well as your finger dexterity. Thanks a lot for watching and rock on.